So what is the deal with Europe anyway? It's a question we ask a lot on this podcast about a lot of different subjects, but this one specifically is about innovations. We just don't see the big innovators like Elon Musk over in Europe. And it's nothing to do with Europeans. A lot of the innovators we have here in the States are from Europe. So why are all the European innovators over here? Why don't they stay at home and innovate there? That's the question a paper asks titled, "Why Europe Produces Nobel Prize Winners but Not Elon Musk's." It's not about talent or knowledge. Europe has that. So there must be something systematic that stops all of this talent and science from being converted into world-changing organizations. The statistics are troubling. Overall, Europe has a per capita GDP that's 30% lower than the US, and that gap is widening. Although they produce tons of research, they only have 1/6 the venture capital of the US. Post-pandemic, labor productivity only grew 0.9% in the EU compared to 6.7% in the US. In the last 50 years, only 2 EU companies hit $100 billion, Spotify and BioNTech, and both of them were listed on US exchanges. The authors wrote, "Europe is a laboratory with no loading dock. The research gets done, the papers get published, the patents get filed, but the products do not ship, the companies do not scale, and the commercial value walks out the door." The investment money should be there, given that Europeans save a lot, much more than Americans. But unlike America, savings don't translate into investments. In other words, banks aren't willing to take the risks with their assets. Because fundamentally, the issue is that Europe is built on a system optimized for stability, not risk. Constraints all over Europe and all through their financial and economic policy is about not taking risks, not moving too fast. Compared to the US's attitude among its top entrepreneurs of move fast and break things. That means that annuities and other funds barely touch venture capital, and late-stage funding is barely scarce. So startups grow a bit and then hit the ceiling. So they go, well, I guess it's time to move to the US. But even more than risk avoidance, it's almost like they punish risk takers. They tax stocks like income before you even cash out. Failure has legal consequences. Movement is tied up in bureaucratic red tape. That's actually verified by the exceptions, the places where Europe dominates, such as luxury items, aerospace, or pharmaceuticals. Those industries have a much lower risk profile. Here's an interesting thing about the paper I couldn't help noticing. In several places, they say regulation isn't the problem, and yet a lot of what they're describing is problems that stem directly from regulation. That's a core bottleneck, especially in new, fast-moving sectors like EVs, AI, and autonomy. Let's look at Tesla's full self-driving as an example. With its enormous safety record, it's now available in the US, Canada, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, and even China. And yet, Musk and his company have hit a wall trying to get it introduced into Europe, where only just this week it's now approved in the Netherlands. That came after 18 months of intense testing and regulatory approvals. Even after that, they're still no closer to approvals EU-wide. But think about it. Where would FSD be without all those years of millions of Tesla drivers using it and sending updates back to Tesla? Without the real-world miles, how do you even get to the point where you can pass the safety ratings in Europe? If every country had Europe's regulatory structure, new innovations like FSD likely wouldn't happen at all. AI is another example. Even though it's a fledgling industry, Europe once again has decided to pass the AI Act and confine the shape it will take for the foreseeable future. But AI is moving insanely fast, and today's models don't fit neatly into categories. So that leads to massive uncertainty in the market because AI companies can't predict how their models will shift categories in the next 12 months. That's especially oppressive for the small open source projects. All it'll do is entrench big tech in the EU even further. AI innovates through rapid development, user feedback, and constant iteration. But in the EU, each and every step requires legal review and compliance checks. We see the same kind of things with the banking and financial regulations. It's not that banks are unwilling to take risks with their money, it's that regulations actively prevent them. So instead of not being an issue, it seems that, by their own data, regulation is the hub of the very system they're complaining about. Not that regulatory reform alone would fix everything, but if you want to know why the system is the way it is, look at the incentive structure. And if you want to know what the incentive structure is, look at regulations. The example they conclude with is Mira Murati, an Albanian educated in Europe, but now in America running Thinking Machines Lab with a valuation of $12 billion in a little over a year. She just had to move to America to do it. They conclude, Europe has done harder things, but capability is not the same as will. The next Mira Murati is 16 years old right now, learning calculus. She is good at it. In 5 years, she will choose where to build her life and her company. By then, the reforms proposed here will either be operational, or they will be another set of ambitions that Europe announced and did not deliver. When the problem is this precisely described, there is no excuse for leaving it unsolved, rule maker or rule taker. The evidence is assembled. That roadmap is drawn. That choice is Europe's. But if massively reforming Europe's obstructionist regulatory system isn't part of that, then sorry, it's just not going to work.